If you aren't using these 5 simple automations in your business, then you are seriously missing the mark when it comes to consistent communication, engagement, and building trust with your audience. Let's fix that right now. Hi, my name is Victoria. I'm a former COO who turned to freelance digital business management. I now like to think of myself as an organizer of entrepreneurial chaos. I come in and help business owners rewrite systems, marketing, team management, and so much more. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about simple automations that every single business should have. During my time as a COO, I developed automations that literally saved our company over 200 daily tasks, which is insane to look back on. And I'm going to share a few examples and how many tasks you could be saving from having to manually do in your business and really slow down the process and lead to errors. Make sure to like and subscribe this video. It is a brand new channel that I'm trying to grow, so I could use your help in sharing with your friends, your family, other entrepreneurs who might find this useful. As a COO, I found myself really overwhelmed before building automations into our business. I mean, we had questions all the time from other team members. Team members forgot how to do their task or forgot what task they should be focused on or didn't understand the priority. There were always questions from the customers, not really sure what the next step was for them. Keeping up with projects and tasks was always challenging just because we had to use like manual, sheets of paper and a checklist kind of concept for a long time. And then I really started to dive into automations and became a little bit obsessive with it. I was determined to figure out how to streamline a lot of the leaks, the holes, the questions that were sort of popping up in the business. How could we streamline a lot of our efforts, make communication consistent, and how could we continue to just serve the customers in a better way and make it so much easier on the team members? Today, I have 5 simple automations that are going to transform the way your business works, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a sample of what would actually be in those automations and how many tasks they're going to save you within each. You're going to be so surprised by the data at the very end. So first off, we have got number 1 for automations is like an awareness and consideration marketing funnel, which specifically I'm thinking like email marketing. So this would be somebody opts into your email subscription via your website. Usually you have some kind of lead magnet that leads you to opt in on somebody else's website. You're like, hey, I absolutely do want that free resource, that free tool. Or maybe it's a really low cost, like $5 or something. And you're like, yes, I want this. And then you start receiving emails from this company. This is your awareness and consideration marketing email funnel. This should include a few things. First of all, it needs to include the confirmation for the actual email opt-in. Like, did you even want to receive these emails in the first place? And if for some reason you don't, this would be the time to go ahead and say no. And it should also lay out within that first message what would be expected going forward. What kind of content are you going to be receiving in that email funnel? What kind of content are you going to be sending in the email funnel if this is yours? Trust building emails. So think of a self-introduction, an introduction of the company, relay experiences and lessons that you've learned along the way, and they need to align with common concerns that your current clients would have. Overcoming struggles, the similar struggles that your clients would have. Testimonials, so what have other people said about your work? Valuable emails, which would be like powerful advice and tackling loneliness, because that's really challenging for a lot of people. Extra freebies your clients can use, so they probably opted in for one lead magnet. Is there other freebies or other resources that you can provide that would be useful to your potential client? And then, of course, your promotional emails, because at the end of the day, you are trying to run your own business. How do your services help people like them? Real stories from real clients that you've had and their return on investment, and information about what the next steps would be if they want to work with you, and then questions to promote replies more often. And we're going to get into that. So this is like the planning stage, right? Awareness and consideration email marketing. This is the trigger. Somebody opts into your email form on your website. Overall, your automation should include these things as a part of your planning process. I'm going to show you an example of what that would actually look like now. Your CRM, you would set this up one time, or you would hire somebody to set this up, and you take a little bit of time to set it up at the beginning, but then your automation is going to send this out automatically. All these emails are going to be sent out automatically. You never have to press send, you never have to rewrite the email, and it can do it all for you. One pro tip with this as well, in these emails, as you're building them, I encourage you to end each email with some kind of question at the end. This can promote replies from your potential clients, which again is just building more trust, more awareness, a connection point between you and the client, and can further lead them to purchasing like a trial program from you, a sample product from you, or your overall offer. Imagine if you had an automation built where it sent even just these 6 steps on its own, right? How many tasks does that save you? It saves you 6 tasks, right? These are 6 emails that you would never have to write after setting it one time. And of course, for every 5 clients, that would be 30 tasks that are automated. And for every 100 clients, that would be 600 tasks that are automated. And this is just 6 emails. I mean, you can create automations to do as many emails as often as you really want that, align with your business culture. Of course, we want to make sure that we're providing good content to the customer, otherwise they're not going to care. But you don't have to do just 6 emails either. You could save yourself even more tasks by setting up 14, 15 emails, whatever it might be. Number 2, onboarding new clients. So the trigger for this kind of automation would be at a point when someone begins like the trial or the sample product of your product or service that you offer. So this would be like your lower barrier offer. Maybe you offer a trial for like $5, maybe you offer a product for like $5, something that allows clients to kind of get a taste of what the real offer would be like before they go and invest a bunch of money, right? This is like that trial period. Your trial period automation should include the following: a thank you for their consideration, and possibly a mini like thank you gift if you have something that you can do for that. Some samples would again be like a free resource that they might find useful, or maybe just like a sticker, a t-shirt, or whatever. Kind of depends on your business, of course. It should also include like information for your clients. So pretty much always in most businesses, you're gonna require clients to fill out some kind of intake form so that you can get their basic information. They should always know what to expect going forward. So you want to make sure that in your information stuff, you're laying out like, hey, this is a trial period. This is how the trial period works. This is what to expect. This is what's going to happen after. This is a great time to set up some kind of goals, like miniature goals specifically, setting them up, laying out a plan for how to achieve them, and the mini celebration at the end when they actually get there. And then of course, we still want to include promotional emails because we still want to sell our main service or product. So how would this actually look? Maybe it looks something like this. So somebody signs up for your trial, your sample product, whatever it is, and then immediately they get an email that says, thank you for your consideration and purchase. Here's a free gift. And it asks you to fill out the intake form, and here's what to accept next. All of that can be in the same email, and they're getting a lot of information right up front. It's kind of like a welcome packet. Maybe the next day after they've taken like the first couple steps of that trial or that product, whatever's included, maybe you're sending like, hey, great job, or a I'm proud of you kind of message. Proud of you for, testing out something, whatever it might be. 2 days later, send a goal setting email and set up a plan for a small way your client can win. So this is really important, I think, for establishing kind of the next step for your client. The last thing you want is for your client to hop into your business in some way, shape, or form through a trial and then feel like they have no idea where to go and that they're just in a maze. So we want to set up like a really specific ideal goal that we can target the client to and they can feel confident about achieving. And maybe like 3 days after they initially purchased that trial or that sample offer, we can answer some frequently asked questions that clients usually have because they're probably starting to think of them by that point. We can leave links for where to find more information. Maybe 5 days after the purchase of a trial, we can talk about the common mindsets that newbies usually have at this stage and concerns with overwhelm or not fitting in. So again, we want to guide the client. We don't want them to hop in and feel like there's a maze of stuff. less than a week after purchasing something, you're usually thinking to yourself, okay, was this purchase like good for me? Did I actually find it valuable? Do I understand how it works? And if their question is no to any of those about your product or service, you can pretty much guarantee that they're not going to continue with you. And maybe 7 days later, after they've purchased like the trial or the sample product, you could provide them a price information list about what it is to continue with you or how it works to continue with you. So, usually you're going to offer that sample product and then move into a more high ticket item of some kind, your main service offer, your main product offer. And we want to make sure that they're actually informed about what that transition would look like, how much it would cost, what's the commitment to be made for that. Pro tip, make sure your client feels included and guided the whole way through. You need to picture this as literally your client walking into a maze, and you want to give them every sign, every possible landmark, hand-holding option you can, so that they can find their way through the maze super easily and never have to question if you care or not. They never have to question if they're going to get out of the maze or not, if they're going to be able to make it. How many tasks does this save you? For this one, 7 emails are a part of this automation, so of course this would save you 7 tasks. And again, this is just a sample, an example of what an automation could look like. Your automation doesn't necessarily have to have only 7 tasks, but even if it did, for every 5 clients, that's 35 tasks that you no longer have to do, that your automation takes care of once this is set up. And for every 100 clients, of course, that's 700 tasks. What could you do if in a year you saved yourself even 700 tasks? That's insane. Okay. Automation number 3 that we're talking about is somebody becoming like your official member or official client. This would be, hey, they tried out your sample thing, they liked it, now they want to buy whatever the main ticket item from you is, your main service or your main product, your higher ticket item. This should include a celebration, first of all, a thank you for their purchase and full access to the service, of course. If you're a course creator, then obviously once somebody buys it, they need an email that's going to give them access to the course. If they buy it and there's no access to the course, you're instantly losing trust super fast, because they're like, I just paid you loads of money and you're not giving me what you promised, right? It also helps if you try including some free add-ons. So under promise, over deliver is a great customer service tip in general. And if you can do that within your automations, it's even better. Like, hey, you're going to receive these things. They get those, and then you go, oh yeah, I also just want to give you this just because. Fantastic. Social proof. Assign a task to announce it on your social media. You've just gained like a new client. That would be a super exciting thing to share on your social media. It shows social proof that people are interested in your product, that you are selling out of your product, and that other people should jump on the bandwagon so that they don't miss out. Next up, information. Again, we always want to make sure that the client knows exactly what is going on. So I like to think of this as kind of a welcome packet or information packet, but make sure to, welcome them to the official group, as an official client. If you have any contracts or agreements that are required, usually this is the point when those would be a part of the process. Again, what to expect going forward. So yes, they're an official client, but that doesn't mean that there's not next steps for them. There's always next steps. Make sure to include what those are. Answers to frequently asked questions at this stage, right? Like the frequently asked questions as a trial or a sample member might be a little bit different than the frequently asked questions at a full-fledged member. Your contact information. Again, we want to make sure that they know how to find us if they do have other questions outside of the list you provide them. And then again, goal setting them up, planning how to achieve them, and let's outline like the first main milestone for them. Let's go, okay, this is what I want you to get out of this program to start with, and let's work from there. Let's share other success stories by sharing the long-term wins from other clients and how to overcome obstacles that are very likely to come up. So how would this look like? Let's give an example. Maybe immediately as soon as they purchase your higher ticket item, they're going to get that email that says thank you for your purchase and a free gift, and ask you to fill out like the contract or the agreement. And of course, here's a list of steps that are next. Immediately, a task could be assigned to you or one of your team members about promoting your new client on social media, social proof. So it's a little reminder that's like, hey, don't forget to do this. Some CRMs even allow you to like link up social media, and with AI you can kind of do that automatically, but I haven't found that those like look that great yet. Maybe when the AI art is a little better, that might be a possibility, or the AI text on art. But right now I would recommend like you just kind of assign it to yourself or a team so that you remember how to do it. Agreement sign triggered. So once the agreement actually gets signed out, you can have a separate automation that kind of triggers like a, hey, here's the welcome packet and the next steps now. Thanks for signing your agreement. Maybe 2 days after they purchase your main ticket item, you can set up the client's first milestone and how to achieve that precisely. So you send out an email that's like, hey, thank you so much for purchasing. I'm really excited about your progress or the road that you're on. Here's like the first milestone I want you to focus on, and this is exactly how you can achieve the first milestone. Maybe 7 days later, you send out another email that's like sharing advice about what to do when your client feels unmotivated about the milestone, because let's face it, we all get super hyped up when we first set out goals, and then there's always kind of this period of time where you feel that dip, and maybe you're not as excited about your goal, you're not really sure if you want to continue with the goal. We want to help combat that before it even starts. And 14 days later, after they purchase your main ticket item, maybe you send out another success story about a client and what they were able to achieve. So first off, pro tip, make sure your client understands the goal and how to achieve it successfully. So again, this kind of gets back to that motivation. We don't want to sign clients up and then just go, okay, great, you're signed up, you have everything you need, without like kind of pushing them towards that goal. The whole reason they signed up with us is they wanted some kind of transformation, they wanted some kind of change, and it's our job to help make sure that they are able to achieve it. So we need to lay out the plan very precisely. We need to try to keep them motivated as much as possible, and we need to show them what is possible with other success stories. How many tasks would this one actually save you? 5.5, and the only reason I put a half is because yes, you would still need to actually post that social media for social proof. You need to like create the post and send it out. Create the post, I mean, you create a template, you reuse the template, that's very easy. But your automation can still remind you or your team member like, hey, don't forget to post about so-and-so. I recently joined my Burn Bootcamp classes that are near me, and Burn Bootcamp actually does a really good job of like sharing new clients on social media. I think it's a really great thing that they do. I'll put up a sample. I'll ask Z to put up a sample in the video I'll share with her. But they always like have somebody holding a sign and take a photo with the group, and they're like, hey, let's welcome our new member, or somebody's official, they just joined the Burn Bootcamp Club or something like that. I think they do a really great job of that. Saving 5.5 tasks for this automation. Every 5 clients is 27.5 tasks that you've totally automated, you don't have to do yourself. And for every 100 clients, that's 550 tasks. Okay, automation number 4, goal or milestone celebrations. If you remember, we wanted to set up like a goal or milestone with the member that purchased the main ticket item. The trigger for this is that your client has actually reached that next milestone or that main goal, whatever it was. What should it include? Of course, we want to include a celebration that they achieved their milestone. They should get like a I'm proud, I'm grateful for you kind of message. Social proof, once again, let's post that on social media. Let's make sure that we're showing other people the transformations that we are able to give others. Again, free gift if possible. Like, we want to give as many free gifts as we can throughout this journey. Information, what's next milestone? How do we get there? This is also probably a great time to ask for review or feedback of some kind. So maybe if your like milestone was you're in the middle of working on a project and part of the project is complete, you're probably asking for feedback on how the project's going so far. In the case of gyms or martial arts studios like I worked at, maybe they received like the weight goal that they were trying to get to. That would probably be a great time to ask for a review on your social media on somewhere like a public forum. A referral request if appropriate, and I would do this like if the goal itself was kind of achieved, like in the case of working in a martial arts studio, like somebody achieved their next belt rank or somebody achieved like black belt, which was usually the main goal for people, then yes, it was absolutely like the time to ask for a referral. If you're in the middle of a project with somebody, it's probably not the best time to ask for a referral at that point. Like, you haven't completed the project, you've completed a milestone within the project. It's probably more likely to receive feedback, and you'll ask for a referral after the project is completed. So just something to keep in mind. And then mindset alignment. Now that this milestone, this goal has been achieved, are you guys in alignment of what the next milestone is going to look like? What is the next goal? And being able to confront potential obstacles with that. And of course, we want to continue to share long-term stories. We would like to get their success story and ask about sharing it, things like that. As soon as the goal is achieved, we can send out like a little celebration message on their progress and announce what's next for them. Get some insights, ask for their insights on how they're feeling about their progress and what's next. Maybe next we can also immediately assign a task to ourselves or our team, again promoting it on social media for social proof. Maybe one day later, after they've achieved the goal, we can send that free gift as a thank you. Maybe 2 days later, we can ask for feedback or review. And 4 days later, we could create a new goal together or the next milestone and lay out the steps for how to get there. Maybe 10 days later, we send out advice on a potential obstacle that may come up in the next goal, or that might come up as a result of achieving one goal. Now we're like, okay, what's next? How do we combat that obstacle? Pro tip, celebrate their achievement and align on how they continue progress next. This is the biggest thing, like what is next for this person? How many tasks does this save you? 5.5. Very similar to the last one, because again, you are posting on social media. You'll probably have to do that part manually, at least for now, or your team member will, but all in all, you're still saving 25.5 tasks for every 5 clients and over 550 tasks for every 100 clients. Last but not least, workflow management automation. The trigger for this would be you are doing a project that is repeatable. You're starting that project. So I want you to think about something that you do in your business all the time. You probably host like the same event every year, or you probably host the same 2 or 3 events every year. Maybe you do like a monthly something. You might host some kind of workshop online every single month or every other week. This would be the time to include workflow management operations. And those look a little bit different, because before we were really looking at sending messages to the clients. Now we're looking at creating tasks around a project to our team members. So I do want you to keep that in mind. This should include templates you may need for the project. We'll dive into that a little bit more specifically in the next slide. This can include assign specific job tasks to specific job roles. So if your workshop event online always requires like somebody on your team to be sort of the host of a workshop, you automatically assign that job through the automation. Sends over approval requests to managers as needed. If like its design was done and it needs to be approved by somebody, you can automatically send that over to the manager without the designer ever having to do that, for example. Completes or at minimum sets up tasks that are repeatable and collects data for you. So let's look at how that actually works in a workflow automation. As soon as a project needs to begin, the project can be automatically generated with like one click of a button. Everything can be automatically generated. And this would include templates for feedback request forms. If you are a design agency and you are taking in a request for a new design to be completed, and as a manager, you're going to send that over to your designer. Your designer is going to work on it and send it back to you requiring approval. You can create a template for your feedback request and make sure that all the general questions that you always ask, or the general feedback that you always kind of check off, is a part of that template. You don't have to rewrite it every time. Template for task information is generated. So for these repeatable tasks that are always a part of the project, do you have all the information required to complete the task? Where are the links for more information? What do we want something to look like? When does it need to be done? Like the due date, who's responsible, all that kind of stuff. All of that can be automated in a template so that you just fill it out. You don't necessarily have to remember what all needs to go in there. You don't even have to fill it out if it's a repeatable project and it's going to be the same every single time. You can just have that template automatically generated, saving you tons of time. update messages are automatically sent, or at least the template is generated. Again, you can set this up in a project manager where it's like, hey, so-and-so completed this task. It can either be automated that it sends an update to the appropriate people who need to know that so-and-so completed that task, or it can at least create a template message that so-and-so can then send saying, hey, I've completed this task. Moves task back to appropriate team members after approval request is accepted or denied. So again, let's use that like design team example. If a manager sends a task to a designer to, hey, I need you to design a graphic for social media, and then the graphic is created, now an automation can be presented that automatically requests an approval from the manager. That designer never has to send the approval over. They just like click a button and go, hey, I did my design, and that automation can happen on its own. Assigns approval request to managers as needed. That's kind of what I'm talking about. It doesn't always have to be just like approval requests. This can be multiple tasks, can be moved around, automated, can all be automated. And then data appears on a dashboard with real-time updates. So if you have a project and smaller tasks contribute to the project's completion, you probably want to see that on some kind of dashboard, or maybe you want to see the budget on a dashboard, or you want to see the statistics of like people's workload on a dashboard. All of that can be automated. You never have to manually track that stuff. Pro tip, detailed information that's easily accessible prevents constant questions. So as a general rule of project management, the more detailed information you can provide to the team members working with you and make it easily accessible for them, the less questions they're going to have throughout the process, easing up everybody's workload and the flow of things, right? We want to make it as simple as possible for all of our team members to find any information that they could possibly ever need. How many tasks does this save you? At least 6.5 based off this example right here, but honestly, it could save you so much more than this. Workflow management could be so customized to individual things and save you tons and tons of work. For every 5 projects, that's 35 tasks automated. For every 100 projects, that's 700 tasks automated. How do you actually build automations? I know you might be thinking like, hey, this would be great to implement in my business, but I don't know anything about automations. First of all, you just need the right tool stack. You need a CRM or a PM. CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management, so that's a customer relationship management tool. PM would be project management. The first 4 automations we talked about were very client customer focused. That's where you would need a CRM, that customer relationship management tool. The last one, the 5th automation we talked about, was like a workflow management. That's where a project manager tool would come into place. And there's a few options I've got here on the slide for you. If you're looking at CRMs, there's great ones like Moxie, which is specifically designed for freelancers. That's what I use in my freelance business now. I tried out a couple others like Dubsado, but I find that Moxie is really incredible. Spark is very specific for like martial arts, fitness, like kids and adults, like athletic programs. But it's a really phenomenal CRM, and I even know the owner who created that. He's a really wonderful guy, so I can't support them enough. Go High Level is really like top notch. It's definitely more complicated to learn, but it can do so many things, and it is a little bit more expensive, so it really depends on the size of your business, but Go High Level is a fantastic tool. Monday I don't know a lot about, but I do know it's super popular. HubSpot and Zoho I know a little bit about. Project management tools, Asana is probably my absolute favorite. I did a training course with Asana. I'm certified as a workflow specialist in Asana. They've never like paid me or anything. It's not a sponsored video, but just the full project management capabilities of Asana is really, really impressive, so I do love that. ClickUp is also a super popular project management tool, and Trello is also gaining popularity. It can't do quite as much as either ClickUp or Asana that I know of, unless they've added some updates, but it is still a really fantastic tool, maybe for initial like smaller businesses, beginner businesses. If I had to select any of those, Asana. How much time do automations really save you? So as you know, we were kind of tracking a lot of those tasks throughout this slide, and we were keeping track of like how many tasks we could actually avoid doing if we had these set up. If you had just these 5 automations built and in the way that we discussed them in the slide, remember I said like you can customize and add so much more to the automations than what we talked about today. But if you only did them in the way we talked about today, for every 1 client, you would save yourself and your team over 30 tasks just on 1 client. Every single 1 person that comes into your business, there would be 30 tasks that you and your team would no longer necessarily have to do. That's crazy. And that's just if you had the 5 automations that each had like 5 to 7 steps in them, and that's it. For every 5 clients, you'd save yourself over 150 tasks. For every 10 clients, you'd save yourself over 305 tasks. For every 30 clients, you'd save yourself over 915 tasks. For every 50 clients, you'd save over 1,500 tasks. For every 100 clients, you'd save yourself 3,000 tasks. For every 500 clients, you'd save yourself over 15,000 tasks. And for every 1,000 clients, you would save you and your team over 30,500 tasks. That's absolutely insane. Imagine what you could do with all of that time if you didn't have to do all of those tasks manually, or vice versa. Think about how much extra time it is costing you and your team members if you don't have these automations in place. All right, just to recap the 5 again, it was awareness and consideration email marketing. That's when somebody like opts into your email subscription via like a landing page or your website. It was onboarding new clients for like your low barrier offer. That would be like your trial or your sample offer. You can have an automation for that. Somebody becomes an official member client with you. That's like your higher ticket price or your main service or product. Make sure you have an automation for that. And a goal or milestone celebration, the customer has achieved something that they wanted to achieve with you. Let's make sure to celebrate that. And then workflow management. This would be for your team specifically, you and your team working together and making sure everybody's on the same page when a new project that's repeatable. You do it, once a month, once a week, or whatever it might be, but you're going to automate that process to make it a lot easier. Those are your 5 automations that every single business should have so that you are not leaving gaps, you're not letting stuff fall through the cracks. And I'm a huge nerd when it comes to automation stuff. I spent years trying to learn automation first of all, and then applying that knowledge into actually building them. And I have built automations that have saved our company over 200 daily tasks, which is absolutely insane looking at that. I live and breathe these automations, and I think they're so vital to every single business. Specifically, if you are a smaller business, maybe you're 5 or even 6 figures, and you're trying to figure out how to optimize for further growth, for making your team lives easier, for increased revenue, then you probably need to take another look at your automations. I'm happy to help with that. You can always find me on my website, victoriaparamore.com, schedule a strategy call, and we can work through some of that together. I hope you found a lot of value out of this video. Again, I love automations and I love talking about automations. Please like and subscribe for the next one. Thanks guys, and bye-bye.